Hello guys, welcome back. Once again, I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and this video is going to be a little special because this is the video where I admit that I myself, yes, the Philadelphia Whovian, will never apologize in a million years for that thing that gets attacked all the time, that's accused of being a monstrosity. Doctor Who, the movie. Yep, Doctor Who, the movie. The one that was accused of doing everything wrong when it came to the show of Doctor Who. Now, before I begin this review, I want people to all know I know that Doctor Who the movie is not. Oh, by the way, this is the Doctors Revisited, 5 through 8. So yeah, you see all 4 Doctors on there, but it's giving me a story from each of those Doctors. So with the 8th Doctor, of course, the only story for the longest time was the movie. So of course that got into the set. And I've heard so many bad things about Doctor Who the movie before I finally got a chance to buy this DVD used copy, only way I could get it affordably. Um, well, I heard so many terrible things about the movie. How it just ruined everything about Doctor Who. And then I finally bought it, and then I put it in to find out what all the ruckus was about, what all the uproar was about. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, guys. No, I'm not only not going to apologize for it, but I'm going to even admit there are things about Doctor Who, the movie, that I like. Yeah, I know. Controversial statement. How dare I like anything about Doctor Who, the movie? How dare I possibly defend the monstrosity that it is? Well, I'm going to. Again, I know it's not perfect. I know you might even click the thumbs down button if someone watches this video. But the fact of the matter is, it's not all bad. So, again, I'm admitting it's not perfect. There are flaws to it. But here's why I do not hate Doctor Who the movie, nor do I ever think anyone should apologize for it. One, when it comes to Doctor Who the movie, here's what has to be understood. That movie, or the TV movie, what you want to call it, was a product of its time. Remember, this came out in the 90s. Yes, the 1990s. And I was born in 86. So the 90s were my upbringing. It was my time and all that. But the fact is, I'm not so nostalgic that I'm blinded by what the 90s were. And the fact is, with the 90s, there were a lot of really, really good movies and shows that came out of the 90s, but there was also some bad that came out of the 90s. There were some 90s trends here in America and probably in all the, Britain, many parts of the world that were not good trends. There were. There were. And thinking about the 90s is, that era, especially when it comes to American era, did rub off on Doctor Who. I see how they were trying to, adapt the show to be accessible to the modern audience, the contemporary audience of that time. So they made certain choices to have it appeal to the modern people. And while in hindsight, those were not good choices sometimes, I can see why they went with those choices. People who bashed the movie say nobody understood Doctor Who worked on that movie. That is so not true. When you watch the movie, there are definite parts about the movie that you can see. Not only did the people watch the show, they did have a respect for the show. And one thing is in the interpretation of the Doctor. Overall, I think that the 8th Doctor was very, very, very enjoyable in many ways. I know some people think he was awful, or awesome, but I think there were things about him that were very much enjoyable. Like that scene where he says, "Excuse me while I kill myself," where he aims the gun at himself to get the cop to surrender his keys so they can get on the motorbike and drive to the problem. And also the TARDIS. Oh my God, that was one really incredible looking TARDIS. That was. And also the direction. Again, people keep saying the movie is all awful, but especially for the 90s, TV 90s, that was some very good direction. Very good direction. Go back and just look at how the scenes are shot in the Doctor Who movie, and you can see a director who genuinely was doing his best to write, make a pretty movie. He really was. And again, there are definitely flaws to it. It's very 90s, but again, those flaws are a product of its time, and they're trying to adapt it in a way that appeal to modern audiences. They shouldn't have, but what can you do? Now, when it comes to the negative aspects of it, is them not understanding what the Eye of Harmony looks like. Well, I can understand why they got confused there, because there's not many representations of what the Eye of Harmony did look like. But the fact that they have the Eye of Harmony in there, the cloister room, and the idea of the clock that could help get the TARDIS reset and all that, and the molecular structure of the planet breaking up with the molecular structure when he touches the glass and he walks through it. These are very interesting concepts. They really are. And when the Eighth Doctor tells Grace to set her clock, again, interesting concepts. And people bash Eric Roberts as the master. Here's the thing. People think his performance was terrible. I don't. Number one, I feel like, okay, let me tell you a little something about actors. 75% of the time when you're watching an actor and you think they're bad, they're not a bad actor. You're watching an actor be badly directed or was given bad writing. And they did the best they could with what they had. It came out bad, but what can they do? It's like actors are like the waiters of the entertainment world sometimes. Sometimes they are bad at what they do, but sometimes they really are just the waiters. What I mean by that is, you go to a restaurant and you order some food and there's a problem in the kitchen. The chefs, they're completely, something's wrong, but you scream at the waiter for it. That's what actors are like. They're like the waiters of the entertainment world. The directors are like the chefs, and so are the producers and the writers. The production side, they're really what's going on in the kitchen. And the waiters, are the actors, where we see them do a bad job, and so we scream at them the way we scream at a waiter, when really it's the person in the kitchen who's making the mistake. So for all I know, Eric Roberts, I've seen him do a lot of good acting. So I'm going to assume he was just given direction that wasn't always the best, but even if that's the case, he is still not bad. His acting, he made a lot of strong choices. That's another problem I have. When actors make strong choices, they're accused of being bad, but they're making choices. They're doing what actors need to do, which is act, make choices. And also, I think people are like, criticize him for the theatricality of it. Or, I don't know why they criticize him. But here's what has to be understood is the master was gradually becoming more theatrical as his, the show continued. And there's nothing negative about that. People have a tendency to criticize every actor for not being Roger Delgado. Sorry, I forgot his name wrong in some way. Uh-huh. I love you, Roger. Sorry if I blanked out, but I think you're Roger Delgado. But here's the problem. It's like, to me, comparing masters in some ways is like comparing doctors' acting styles. Is we are mad at the people for not being Roger, Anthony, Eric, John Sims, and then Missy for not being Roger, but they're not supposed to be Roger. Roger is supposed to be Roger. Roger is his take on the master. Anthony is his take. Eric is his take. John, etc., and so forth. Any master's take on their master is supposed to be that take on the master the way it's an actor's take on the doctor. They're not supposed to be the same person. So no, I do not criticize Eric for not being Roger. I do not criticize Anthony for not being Roger. I'm looking at this master for what that incarnation of that master is. End of story. So yes, I understand if you don't like Eric Roberts' take on the Master, but no, it's not bad. It really isn't. I wish they did not give him that ridiculous outfit. But then again, if you go back and look at the Time Lords and how they dressed in Classic Who and also in New Who, sometimes too, it's not that different than what they originally were like. I mean, they could be some ridiculous costumes. They did have when the Time Lords did have awful dress sense in our perspective of things. Now comes to the idea of the Doctor being half human. Guys, I admit that was stupid. I know it was stupid. But here's the thing. When the Doctor thought this, he was still in his regeneration phase. I mean, well, he regenerated, but we've seen the Doctor post-regeneration. We've seen him completely have psychotic breakdowns. We've seen him forget what he is, lose touch with his mind. So you know what? I attribute that to the Doctor being very confused. and just that he's not half human. He's just very, very, very confused. Um, and people are like, well, the master also confirmed it that he was half human. I'm not going to trust the master. I'm not going to trust the master to even interpret the TARDIS really well. So I didn't trust either one of their opinions. And the master had also just regenerated. So whatever reasons they gave to the doctor being half human, we can easily refute those very easily because the master and the doctor were not in their right heads. They were still having post regeneration or post, well, then again, the master just took over someone's body, so it's more not really a regeneration as it is possession. But you see what I mean. Um, so guys, I know that is stupid. I'm aware it's stupid. I'm aware some parts of the plot, it's like, whoa, that is stupid too. But you know what? If the RTD era gave us things like Love and Monsters, which are things, there are parts about Love and Monsters I like, and then there's the other part of Love and Monsters I don't like. Eee. If it gave us stuff like that, which it did give us stuff like that, if it gave us the farting aliens in series one, and again, I know some people love the Slitheen, I understand, but Chris Eccleston, there's a reason why he didn't like them. He didn't like them. So if it gave us these things, you know what? I can forgive Doctor Who the movie for giving us what it gave us. There are flaws to it, but there are definitely good aspects to it as well. Now we get to the elephant in the room. That's my cat over there again. His name is Zeus, and he is still awesome. Sorry, I'm back to the situation here. Back to the elephant in the room, where the doctor kisses Grace. Okay. Two things I get out of this situation. People get mad about his doctor kissing Grace, but it's like they're the same people who are okay with the doctor in New Who possibly crushing and definitely crushing on a teenage girl. I'm sorry, but if you have a crush on if you have no problem with a doctor, possibly having romantic feelings for a teenager, doesn't matter if they're legal. A teenager is a teenager. I remember being 18 and 19. I was still a kid. I was legal, but I was still a kid. If you're okay with that, then I don't want to hear about you getting mad that he kissed a grown woman who is a surgeon, who's clearly of a mature age. She's gorgeous, but still of a nice, mature age. I don't want to hear that hypocrisy. I don't. Also with people. Oh crap! Cat, sorry. I am so sorry. He wants to be a part of the situation. He really does. I am so sorry about that. I love him. He just likes to jump on computers like all cats do. Okay, now back to the situation at hand. Um, Another criticism I get about the Doctor Who the movie is because the Doctor is now kissing, these temporary companions like Grace. Now it led to the Doctor becoming more romantically inclined, and those people who do not like how the Doctor became romantic in New Who, especially with like Rose, and looking at humans sometimes in sexual ways. And to be clear, those who hate how the Doctor is portrayed in a very sexual light sometimes in New Who, I understand where you're coming from. You're right to feel what you feel. Those who love the Doctor being romantic in New Who and having a crush on humans, you know what? You have a right to feel what you feel. We all feel what we feel. That is fine. I admit sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes I'm just not okay with it. The Doctor, as long as the woman's of a mature age, and I see what happened. I mean, I mostly want to avoid romantic things happening with the Doctor, but if it's going to happen, please make sure it happens with someone who's of a more respectable age. You know, but again, there's no right and wrong here. It's all down to perspectives. Perspectives always are what they always boil down to. But I've heard some people, even on YouTube, say that because Doctor Who, the movie, had this Eighth Doctor more romantically, possibly interested in his companion at the time, it led to New Who becoming going in that romantic direction, and therefore they blame America for this. Oh, I've heard that. I heard one jerk of a reviewer, sorry dude, but I'm honest about it, who's like, I blame America because Doctor Who became romantically, oriented especially in the beginning of the New Who series. First of all, you can't blame an entire country for a movie. You just shouldn't be doing that. for any country. Just no country should be, the entire country should not be blamed for that movie happening. Number one. Number two, you cannot even remotely possibly blame Doctor Who the movie for what happened in the new Who series when it came to the Doctor being sexualized, because the movie bombed in the 90s. It bombed. It did not become a success. And we did not get to see Paul McCann as the Doctor. We didn't. As a result, you can't go blame a movie that bombed. Here's who you can blame. You blame the writers of New Who at the time, and even the head writer at the time, for making the choice he made to have Doctor Who become like this. Based off, if that was based off the movie, why would he have a Doctor Who become like this based off a movie that bombed, rather than adhering and respecting the first 20 years of the show that he is reviving, that literally was against everything that the choices are being made with the Doctor and New Who of being sexualized. Literally, Classic Who tried to avoid that at all costs and wanted to avoid it. That's one of the reasons I was told why Susan was the Doctor's granddaughter and not just a random teenager, because they did not want the Doctor to have any implications of being sexual towards a teenage girl or any young woman for that matter. So if you're going to blame someone, you blame the people responsible, which is the writers at the time of New Who, especially the first two series of New Who. You don't go blaming a movie from the 90s that bombed, that really was a product of its time in many ways. Yes, it does respect Doctor Who. Those who say that Doctor Who the movie does not respect Doctor Who, does not do anything to, enhance, or or it does not know anything about Doctor Who at all, is not truthful, to be honest. It's okay if you don't like the movie, but Doctor Who, the movie, does have some definite callbacks to Classic Who, from the jelly babies to the way the Doctor is in many, many scenes, to his ability to kind of create a solution out of almost anything in a very improvised manner. So that's not, to me, really fair to say the writers did not learn anything from the previous, Classic Who when it came to the movie. They did. They just were trying to adapt it to the modern audience. I wish they had not done that. I do, but they did. And as a result, things got caught in the crossfire. There was incorrect choices made, but there definitely was some good in there. But one thing I will always say, I do not blame, and I will never blame, nor will I apologize for Doctor Who the movie for what it is. I know it's not perfect. I know I wish they had made different choices in some ways, but no, I don't, and I darn sure don't blame it for how New Who began. If you do not even like New Who, the choices that were made for the Doctor becoming sexualized, I do not blame it for that. I blame only the people who wrote the New Who for that, and that's only if you consider them worthy of blame. If you don't like the idea of what the Doctor was earlier in New Who, or if you do like it, it all depends on you. But Doctor Who the movie is not responsible for that. Only the writers at the time are responsible for that, and why they did not even think to just go back to the way it was in Classic Who, where the Doctor would never have a romantic inclination to a very young woman. But again, for clarification's sakes, you're not wrong if you like how Doctor Who romanticized the Doctor and sexualized him in some ways. You're not wrong if you don't like that at all. It's just down to two different perspectives. But don't go blaming Doctor Who the movie for that. Doctor Who the movie is only to blame for itself. And even then, there still are some good parts to it. And it still at least is entertaining. It's flawed. It made mistakes, but it was at least entertaining. We can say that. So guys, that's my review for why I will never apologize for Doctor Who the movie, and for not hating Doctor Who the movie. Have you seen Doctor Who the movie with Paul McCann's first turn as the Eighth Doctor? And again, another reason why I don't apologize. We gave you a moment where Paul McCann was the Doctor. And if you saw Night of the Doctor, and he was awesome in it, and it was an awesome short, well, it goes back to when he was cast in Doctor Who the movie. Because of that, we got Night of the Doctor, which I will never, ever apologize for. So, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, have you seen Doctor Who the movie? Do you hate it? Are you fine with it? I don't think anybody fully loves it, but I think people are okay with it versus not okay with it. Either way, Whatever you feel, you're awesome. Just if you disagree with this video, it's okay. If you disagree at all about anything, it's okay to disagree as long as you disagree peacefully. And once again, I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and thank you so much just for stopping by.